Tadej Pogacar closed an unforgettable season with another masterpiece. The curtain was falling on the road racing year, and the world of cycling gathered for one final act, Il Lombardia, the race of falling leaves. On October 11th, 2025, the golden light of autumn flooded northern Italy, and the calm waters of Lake Como mirrored the sky like a promise. The last monument of the year, the final dance of the greats, awaited. Pogacar arrived as the undisputed king, chasing his fifth consecutive victory, but the field was filled with ambition. Isaac Del Toro, Remco Evenepoel, Mikel Landa, Ben Healy, Quinn Simmons, and Paul Seixas were all ready to test the champion. The tension was electric. This wasn't just another race, it was a closing chapter in a year of dominance. Il Lombardia is no ordinary event. It's poetry written in sweat and stone, a race that measures not only strength, but legacy. Since its first edition in 1905, the road from Como to Bergamo has defined cycling's soul. From Fausto Coppi to Eddy Merckx, from Vincenzo Nibali to Pogacar, the ghosts of greatness linger on every curve. And now, the Slovenian aimed to match Coppi's mythical record of 5 wins in a row. The air was cool, the scent of damp leaves filled the valleys, and every rider at the start line knew they were part of something timeless. At 10:55 a.m, the peloton rolled out, wheels slicing through the quiet air. Ahead lay 241 kilometres of beauty and brutality, the perfect canvas for legends to be painted. Pogacar, calm and focused, rode among his UAE teammates. Behind him, Del Toro kept his eyes sharp, a young heir studying every detail of the throne. Fans along the route whispered the same question. When will he attack? Everyone knew it would come, most likely on the feared Passo di Ganda, the climb where history is often written in agony. The stage was set. Autumn had arrived, the leaves were falling, and the king was ready to defend his crown one last time. From the very first kilometre, Il Lombardia 2025 exploded into life. Before the riders had even left the shimmering edge of Lake Como, Quinn Simmons ignited the race with a fearless attack. 239 kilometres still to go, yet the American had already lit the fuse. Behind him, the peloton stretched and cracked as a select group formed at the front. Pello Bilbao, Michael Matthews, Gal Gleiver, Filippo Ganna, Thibaut Guernalec, Walter Calzoni, Louis Vervaeke, Lucas Hamilton, Mattia Baez and Bart Lemon joined Simmons in a breakaway that would soon define the rhythm of the race. It wasn't planned, but it was destiny. Behind them, the UAE Team Emirates kept things calm. They knew these early sparks were just the prologue to a much bigger fire. The road wound through Cantu and Brenner, heading for the first climb of the day, the Madonna del Ghisallo, 8 kilometres of devotion, pain and cycling history. The small chapel that crowns its summit holds bikes, jerseys and memories of riders who once dared the impossible. As the break reached its slopes, they carved out a lead of half a minute, their silhouettes framed against the rolling hills of Lombardy. Then, disaster struck behind. Tom Pidcock crashed hard on a descent. For a moment, fear froze the peloton, but the Briton remounted, scraped and furious, refusing to surrender. The race pressed on toward the climbs of San Gottardo, Roncola and Bobeno, a trilogy of suffering that promised to test even the strongest legs. At 177 kilometres to go, a small chase group featuring Scielmos, Aramburu, Gregoire and Pidcock briefly lost contact, but Red Bull Bora took control, forcing the pace to protect Primož Roglič, their silent general. Ahead, the breakaway's advantage grew past 2 minutes, then 3. The helicopters circled, the crowd thickened on the climbs, and the air buzzed with tension. It was early, but Il Lombardia already felt like it was on fire. The peloton rolled under the autumn sun, and somewhere in the distance, fate was already preparing its next strike. The landscape rose, and the calm dissolved. The real Il Lombardia had begun. At 154 kilometres to go, the breakaway's lead hovered around 3 minutes. Quinn Simmons kept hammering at the front, his face a mask of fury, while Bilbao, Matthews and Ganna clung to his wheel, their rhythm laboured, their pride intact. Behind them, the UAE Team Emirates unleashed its plan. Rafał Majka and Pavel Sivakov hit the front of the peloton and the pace skyrocketed. Riders began to drop one by one. The Roncola climb, 7.5 kilometres at 7.4%, tore the race apart. Asbjørn Hellemose was the first to crack. The group of 12 at the front shrank again, and when they crested the summit with 137 kilometres left, even the strongest looked drained. Behind, Pogacar moved back into position after a moment of apparent weakness. A deception, as always. The descent into Bergamo was narrow, technical, and chaotic. Domen Novak took over, guiding UAE's rhythm with surgical precision. The roads were lined with fans, the sound of cowbells echoing through the valleys. By the time the riders hit 108 kilometres to go, the break was down to 10. The UAE had full control. The pace was relentless, a warning to the rest that the real storm was yet to come. The Passo della Crocetta loomed next, 11.7 kilometres at 5.8%, long enough to drain every drop of strength. Lewis Hamilton couldn't take it anymore and was reeled in by the peloton at 94 kilometres from the finish. The gap stayed near 3 minutes, but everyone could feel the pressure tightening. At the front, Simmons attacked again. A desperate, heroic move. At 82 kilometres to the summit, he was alone. Just one man against the world. The camera caught him framed by the Italian mountains, his jersey flapping, his body fighting gravity. It was pure cycling, madness, bravery and beauty intertwined. But the mountains always take their payment, and Simmons was about to meet his price. At 64 kilometres from the finish, the sunlight pierced through the valleys, and Quinn Simmons crested Zambla Alta alone. His body shook, his will burned. Behind, Bilbao, Ganna, Matthews and Verweyck were fading fast. The peloton, led by UAE Team Emirates, was flying. At 3 minutes down, the real race was coming. Pogacar, Isaac Del Toro, Remco Evenepoel, Paul Seixas, Jay Vine and Michael Storer formed the select group. Ahead lay the decisive climb, the Passo di Ganda, 9.3 kilometres at 7.1%, a place where legends are either made or broken. Simmons still held 2.5 minutes, but it was a fragile illusion. As soon as Rafał Majka hit the front, the time gap collapsed. The peloton stretched to breaking point. The air grew heavy, the crowd deafening. And then came the silence before the inevitable. At 37 kilometres from the line, Tadej Pogacar stood on the pedals and attacked. No hesitation, no glance back, just raw, unfiltered dominance. Evenepoel hesitated, choosing to wait. Del Toro tried to hold on, refusing to surrender, but the Slovenian was already gone. In moments, he caught and passed Simmons, gliding past him like a ghost. From that point on, there was no race, only Pogacar versus the distance. Behind him, the chasers broke apart, scattered in his wake. The TV images told the same story once more. Pogacar alone, unstoppable, untouchable. The crowd roared as the Slovenian disappeared up the mountain, painting another page of his myth. When the king attacks, resistance is just an illusion. The descent into Bergamo felt eternal. Tadej Pogacar floated down the curves like he was made of air, his every movement fluid, effortless. Behind him, Evenepoel and Storer tried to organise the chase, but it was futile. At 25 kilometres to go, the gap was 1.5 minutes, and growing. The Slovenian was in his own universe, his cadence smooth, his power relentless. The climb to Bergamo Alta, with its ancient cobblestones and narrow streets, became his stage. Fans leaned over barriers, shouting his name, waving flags, their cheers echoing through the old stone walls. And then, the moment of destiny. Pogacar crossed the line alone, arms raised, calm and almost serene. 5 consecutive wins at Il Lombardia, matching the legendary Fausto Coppi. 10 monuments in his career, numbers of immortality. He smiled as his teammates embraced him. Another perfect ending to a perfect season. Yet behind the glory, another story was unfolding. Isaac del Toro, the young Mexican prodigy, finished among the best. Loyal, strong, brilliant. His role was crucial in controlling the race, his presence a promise of the future. He crossed the finish a few minutes later, exhausted but radiant. Mexico celebrated. The cycling world took note. In his eyes burned the hunger of a rider destined for greatness. The cameras caught him glancing upward, as if acknowledging that this was just the beginning. Il Lombardia 2025 was not only Pogacar's fifth triumph, it was also the birth of a new era. The king had won again, but the heir had already arrived. Autumn's last race closed its curtain, the leaves kept falling, and cycling, that eternal theatre of suffering and beauty, smiled once more.